Hello, it's Chris from Bye for Breakfast and Team Nemo, and today I wanted to do a little level design demo for Little Nemo and the Nightmare Fiends. I haven't done one of these in a little while, but I wanted to show you what we've been working on for our upcoming demo at the GDEX Game Expo. It's a big Midwest US game expo slash professional conference, kind of like a little regional GDC that is held in Columbus, Ohio, and it's going to be held this year on October 1st through the 3rd. That's when the expo is. And so we are going to be showing our first playable demo of Little Nemo and the Nightmare Fiends. And I wanted to share that with all of our backers, since I know many of you cannot be in Columbus, Ohio that weekend. So we thought we'd put a little video together showing off how we've assembled the level and how we have, what kind of stuff goes into making a level like this. So first of all, some context. One, I am running OBS, and my computer does not like OBS for whatever reason, or at least Unity doesn't really seem to like OBS very well. That means that it's going to chug a little bit. That is not the game. It is the recording software that I use. So I have noticed that makes it play in a sort of like, we'll call it expert mode, where I can't always activate Nemo's glide. So we're going to see how far I'm able to get. The other thing that I want to give you the heads up on is that, this is a level in progress. So for right now, example, it's missing things like enemies, because we are still perfecting some of the non-Nemo characters. Nemo is currently basically, if you don't know or haven't seen the updates, after the Kickstarter, we basically completely deconstructed all of the characters and then put them all back together so that they run a little quicker, a little snappier. They just feel better. In fact, now I watch the Kickstarter trailer and I'm like, oh, they're so slow. They play much more in a more satisfying way right now, which is nice. But in doing so, we are still working out some kinks with certain characters. So right now we are showing off Nemo, and this is sort of if you're familiar with the retro game Mega Man X, on Super Nintendo. That game had a intro level that kind of showed you. It was just like a nice, satisfying action level that introduced some of the game's main mechanics. That's what we want to do here. So that's kind of our goal with this level is to treat it like an intro level, and in doing so, we're sticking with Nemo for right now. The other thing you're going to notice is that there's no enemies yet, because we are going to put them in. But I wanted to start off by showing you, here's the level, but if I click off this 2D button, then it actually shows us the makeup of the level, which is kind of neat. But if I rotate around, and you can see Unity's already kind of choppy, you can see all the different layers of the level, and it has this sort of shadow box view. Whee! What's up there? Okay, cool. That's what you're doing. It has this shadow box quality to it, and are you not registering that I'm... Okay. I hate recording on this god-awful piece of software so much. But do you want to cooperate? Thank you. Okay. It gives us this like shadow box kind of feel to it. And there's a reason for that, because one of the things we've done to create a better sense of like Winsor McKay style perspective is we also reworked our camera system. And now we have this 3D perspective camera that's rigged, that's like built of a few cameras at once. And what that does is the main camera does like a flat video game platformer projection. And, that lets us have like nice platforming and, a level style that really feels like, more traditional video game that lets you do some more like, precise platforming and things like that. But the other cameras that we have stacked up use traditional perspective, and so are more like 3D cameras. I'm looking down because that's where my other screen is. And the benefit of that is that lets us do these layers. It's called parallax, which is like when layers pass over each other while you're moving through a game environment in 2D. But instead of being the illusion of 3D, ours is actual 3D. So we can do things like line up, architectural elements and then have them like shift and move like they would if you were looking at real pieces of architecture. So that's one of the things that we're really excited about. And, we've been able to do some really cool things with, even in a really non-architectural space, like a bunch of puffy clouds. So that's how we're building things. We have like a foreground camera for all this stuff, like in the very far foreground. We have a near background camera, and you can see, all the clouds. Each layer is set to only render certain layers. So like we have a near background that renders just this stuff, and then we have a far background that renders everything going into the back. And then, I don't know what that one does. Then we also have a sky cam, which just renders like a still image of the sky. So we can get stars that are always there and never move because they're in the sky. So they're consistent. So that's how we do it. And then we've got, when I pick this camera, you can see the little room numbers appear. That's because that lets us do these like Metroidvania room transitions with doorways and things like that. So, you go into different rooms and you set their camera settings and they do different fun things. So, that being all said, I'm going to start the game and show you around a little bit. So like I said, this is a kind of slow, sluggish demo. It's not this, it's the software that is, we'll see if it behaves. And oh no, is it going to take forever because I just reopened Unity? Let's see. This is one of those times I really need either the Jeopardy or the Monty Python and the Holy Grail intermission music. For when I am doing these sorts of wait and see moments while Unity kind of goes through its routines building out the level. So again, this is pretty normal. The first time when you open Unity, what it does is it builds everything when it builds your game like all at one time. So like if this were here it goes. So if this were the second time I had opened it while I was using Unity, it would go much faster because it just caches the stuff that's already done. But it had to build everything from scratch. So this is a debug menu that we use to try out our different scenes. So these are all the scenes that we used for like testing the new camera or shooting some of the shots for the Kickstarter trailer. But I'm just going to go to our GDEX demo and hit button. And here we go. So, you can see the effect of the parallax camera here. And, you can see the different layers shifting, and you can see how the perspective, like the 3D aspect of this really, creates a nice effect. So I'm running along with Nemo, and so I'm going to nerd out a little bit here. So all of the architecture in this level, as you may have seen, we're basing all the architecture in the game on stuff that Winsor McCay was inspired by to keep the theme up. but we are also basing a lot of it on architects that came afterward, like Antoni Gaudi, and all the architecture in this level, such as these tiles that Nemo is in front of right now, these sort of sparkly tiles, and then just the platforms that he's on. They are based on Gaudi's residential architecture in Barcelona. And then, as you saw, Nemo has these glide particles. We don't know why they don't fire every single time, but when we work that bug out, he will always have glide particles. Now, like I said, with the cloud environment, it's tough to get a really traditional perspective. So what we've done is we've added these like sky lanterns that are sort of like the first vestiges of Slumberland civilization that you encounter as you're going through this sky environment. We thought, it breaks up all of that purple in the and all that purple and blue in the color scheme, but it also, allows us to do these kind of perspective effects and get the most out of the 3D camera. So there are lots of these little pixie lanterns all over. So this is what you call in level design a skill gate. This is a level, like a room that teaches you a new skill. So like in this room, you have to use Nemo's glide, because if you try to use his normal jump, he can't make it. So you have to always use his glide, and that's why we're going to do that. So the idea being that like by employing the skill that the room wants you to know, the player gets this sort of test of that skill and will remember it. Now, that's a safe environment to use the skill in. Now we would get into something a little more dangerous. As you can see, we have death pits, and the death pits now have little skulls in them so that this is a thing you shouldn't go down, and this is, maybe there will be things in other places where you can go down. So this is one of the little surprises for the players, where, you go through a collider and then suddenly Slumberland comes to welcome you in their various balloons. And all of these are based on stuff from the Little Nemo movie or Little Nemo comic, but we wanted to kind of nod to like those aspects of Little Nemo from before. And here's another nod. If you're familiar with the comic strip at all, there's this episode where Nemo is trying to get to Slumberland, and he has to cross this bridge held up by these bridge guardians. And basically these guys' job is to hold up a bridge that Nemo has to cross, but they're feeling kind of mischievous, so then they start shaking the pieces of bridge that they're holding. So our bridge guardians are not quite so mischievous. They're really more like overworked civil servants. Our lead designer Adrian likes to say that all these characters have a very it's a living vibe to them. So these guys they're tired. Like, these things are heavy. This is not up. There goes. There we go. Okay. These guys have a sort of it's a living vibe because they're tired, and they have to hold those things up all day. So Nemo just happened to go across when these guys are super tired. He did not make the best choice of layer to go into. As you saw, those guys in the background are quite stalwartly holding their pieces up. So here we have, like, we're going to put a little reward in there for people showing their mastery of the glide by being able to, glide as I did just there. You're going to notice that, through a lot of these scenes, we actually have tried to frame the moon nicely. We thought that might be a nice, just compositional piece, but it also hints at, what's coming up, which I'm not going to show you, but you'll have to find out. But see, the moon is a very important part compositionally in all of these scenes. We used environment art to try to preview what's going to happen. We also have spikes. Whee! And so one of the things you're also going to notice is that each of these rooms like kind of escalates. It escalates the mechanics. So before you had to glide, and then you had glide with bridge guardians, and now you have spikes and gliding. But you also again, that is not the game. That is, in fact, this sequence is quite doable when I'm not trying to record via OBS and getting these little hiccups in my frame rate that cause me to not be able to glide. But we escalate the mechanics in each room, but I've also made sure to escalate the environment art. So at first you had the lanterns, and then the lanterns go into the background to make way for the balloons, which then go into the background, but they keep adding into this reality and see. We don't have the death colliders on the spikes yet, and that is being very beneficial to our stream. But no. But anyway, so we're also trying to escalate all the environment art in each scene. So each scene gives you more and more and more Slumberland spectacle to see and kind of get excited about as Nemo progresses through the cloud environment. As you just saw with my failure to glide, that we also have our continue screen, which is actually a direct nod to the NES game, because at the end of the levels in the NES game, you'd always have these vignettes of Nemo against a black background with his bed, and we thought, this is not how we want. This is not what it might look like in the final game, but this is going to be something we wanted for at least this first demo to just kind of give people that nod that I know that they might be looking for. So we have Nemo against the black background doing his classic fall out of bed. This is actually the pose he's in the Walking Bed comic. And then you can choose yes or no. But that's it. That's the demo. That's our level design process for this sky environment. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you enjoyed the peek into Little Nemo and the Nightmare Fiends. And we hope, if you are able, that you can come by and check out the more completed version of the level, which will have extra rooms from the ones that I've been in. It'll have its enemies. It'll have a better frame rate because it's not being broadcast on OBS, and it'll just have a lot more bells and whistles. So keep on dreaming, and we look forward to showing you more of Little Nemo and the Nightmare Fiends. Thank you for being such awesome supporters, and we will see you next time.